Hi guys, my name is Himanshu and today we will be discussing regarding virtual network gateway in Azure. So to start with, let me open my presentation. So virtual network gateways, we call them VPN also. So in Azure, virtual network gateway connects our on-premises network to Azure network. Azure Virtual Private Network Gateway is a service that is used to send encrypted traffic between an Azure virtual network and on-premises location over the public internet. So when we talk about virtual network gateway in Azure, we basically talk about point to site VPN connection, site to site VPN connection, vNet to vNet VPN connection, and express route plus VPN gateway. I will not be covering this express route plus VPN gateway in this video session. The reason is to configure this express route plus VPN gateway, we would need the help from the ISP. But in this session, we will be covering regarding the point to site VPN connections, site to site VPN connections, and vNet to vNet VPN connections. So when we talk about point to site VPN connection, we talk about basically three types of connections that we can connect from our laptop to the Azure network. So in point to site VPN connection, the three ways are Azure Certificate, Radius Authentication, and Azure Active Directory. In site-to-site VPN connection, we will discuss with this demo regarding by creating one routing and remote access server in our on-premises setup, and then we will connect the our on-premises network with the Azure network, and then we will also see how we can connect two different sites. For example, one is in Azure and one is in AWS. We will see it in our demo today. So in VNet to VNet VPN connections, what we will do, we will, in a one subscription, we will create two virtual network gateways in a two different regions. And in those two different regions, we will create two VNets along with their VMs running in those VNets. And then with the help of VNet to VNet VPN connection, we will configure it. We will create connections between the virtual network gateways so that both the VMs in a different VNet and the different regions can communicate with each other. So let's discuss point to site VPN connection in detail. When we talk about point to site VPN connection, we have in authentication type, we get Azure certificate authentication, radius certificate, radius authentication, and Azure Active Directory authentication. And we get lot of and we get some different type of tunnels also, like Open VPN SSL, SSTP, IKEv2, IKEv2, and Open VPN SSL, IKVE2, and SSTP. So the source of the information is the Microsoft website, where we can see for which type of tunnel, what type of authentication type we can use. Coming to my next slide, where we will see how we can create the point to site VPN connection with the Azure certificate authentication type. So in this demo, what we will do, we will create one virtual machine in Azure along with this network and the subnet. And then we will create virtual network gateway. And then I have one of my laptop in my on-premises as an on-premise device. Then from my laptop, I will try to connect with the Azure network, and then I will be accessing the Azure virtual machine also from my laptop. But that we will do with the certificate authentication. So to start with, let me log in into my Azure portal. To log in into the Azure portal, we need to log in into portal.azure.com. I have my two accounts in Azure portal, so I will log in with my first account, himanshu.ratan@yahoo.com. So I am logged in, and before we start, let's have a look over the presentation. So first, I will create one resource group with the name TC underscore East underscore USA. Let's do it quickly. Click on resource groups. Then I will select pay as you go model, click on create. I will select the subscription pay as you go, and here I will create this resource group in East US region. Click on next, next. The validation is passed and we will click on create. Now the resource group has been created. Now what I will do, I will create one network A in this resource group. So let's click on home. We will go to the virtual networks and then I will click on create. I will give the name of the virtual network as CC underscore East underscore USA underscore network underscore A. Now click on next. Click on next. Now here I will create a subnet also, but I will not give the name as a default. Rather, I would like to give the name of the subnet as subnet underscore A because this subnet is in the network A. Now we will click on save. Then we will click on next, next, and we will click on create. The deployment is in progress. We need to wait till this deployment is complete. Very quickly, this deployment has been completed. Now we will click on go to resource and we can see that our network is created and we can see that the subnet is also created. Now we have to create one virtual network gateway in Azure, but to do that, we will create one subnet dedicated for the virtual network gateway. To create a subnet, click on virtual network dedicated subnet for the virtual network gateway. We will click on subnet, and then from here we will select virtual network gateways. The name it has all taken automatically. The starting at IP address range is also defined here. We will click on add, and it is done. Now we have created a dedicated subnet for virtual network gateway. Now what we will do, we will create one dedicated virtual network gateway with this name. But before doing that, let us create one virtual machine first in this network with the name Solo 3071, and then we will create a virtual network gateway. To create a virtual machine, click on virtual machines. Now we will click on your virtual machine. We will select this resource group. We will give the name of the virtual machine as Solo 3071. We don't need any redundancy, and the virtual machine should be data center edition for Windows Server 2022. We would like to go with the Azure spot discount because this is for a demo purpose. And then I will give the name of the user ID as admin, and password would be password at the rate 123. And then we will click on next. We will select the hard disk as a standard hard disk drive. For the low cost, we are doing it for the demo purpose only. And then we will click on networking. Here it has all automatically taken the subnet A in the network A, and we need the public IP also. Then we will click on next, next, review plus create. The validation is passed, and now we will click on create. Now our virtual machine is in the process of create. It is in the process of the creation, so we need to wait unless this virtual machine is created. So meanwhile, what I can do is I can create one virtual network gateway simultaneously till my virtual machine creation is in progress. So to do this, let me open another tab and let me quickly access my portal.azure.com. I will choose my account and then I will click on virtual network gateways. I will click on it. I will click on create and then I will give the name of the virtual network gateway here, and the name would be, as I have mentioned here, let it be like this. It's a simple, it's a, in virtual network A, so let's give it a name VNG, virtual network gateway. Then I will use the gateway type as VPN, and I will choose the model, the least, the most least one, VPN GW1, and then virtual network that we created in network A, it will automatically take that gateway subnet. Here you can see it's a gateway subnet. Then yes, we need the public IP address to access this VPN gateway. We need it. So we will give it a name of the public IP address as TC underscore east underscore USA underscore network A. This is our network. In this network, we have virtual network gateway. And then we have this public IP address, PIP. Then we do not want the enable active mode. We will have to disable it. Then we will click on next, review plus create. The validation is passed and we will click on create. Now it is initializing the deployment and then after this it will submit the deployment. Now the deployment has been submitted and it will take approximately 24 minutes to complete. Till the time, let's see what is happening with our VM. So our VM is also created, that we created with the name of Solo 3071. Now let's try to connect to this VM first. Click on download RDP file. Now I will try to log in here. P capital password @ 123. Let's log in. I am now connecting to this virtual machine through the public IP address, that is 172.191.59.55. Yeah, so I am logged in into this virtual machine. Let me quickly disable its firewall so that there should not be a problem while connecting this VM from the on-premises setup. So to do this, click on Windows Firewall. I will disable all its firewall. Now my virtual network gateway deployment is in progress and it will take some time. So meanwhile, let's come to my, let's see this setup. Now this is my virtual machine in my laptop. So it is a kind of a on-premise virtual machine. Now let's open this command prompt cmd, and if we go back to our Azure portal and if we go to the overview of this virtual machine, so basically this virtual machine has one public IP address and one private IP address. So basically from this public IP address, I can directly RDP to this public IP address and I am connected. But in actual, what I want to achieve here is with the help of VPN gateway, I want to access its private IP address. So if I copy this one and I paste it over here in my on-prem VM, I will get request timeout. It's not reachable because there is no connectivity between the Azure VM and my on-prem laptop. So for let's wait for this virtual network gateway to finish, and once it will be finished, then we will create one root certificate and one child certificate in my on-prem laptop, and then I will export the root certificate and I will paste it into the virtual network gateway point to site configuration in that I will paste it, and then we will see. Then I will download one VPN client from there, which I will install on my on-prem laptop, and then I will try to connect, and we will see whether it is connected or connecting or not. So meanwhile, my virtual network gateway is in progress. Let's wait for it, and I will be back once this deployment is complete. So guys, the virtual network gateway has been created. We will click on go to resource, and then we will click on point to site configuration, and now we need to configure it. So we will click on configure now, and I can give the address pool of range, as I mentioned here in my PPT also. I can give it a IP address range like 192.168.0.0/24. And the tunnel type I will select as IKE v2 and SSTP SSL. Then in the authentication type, I will select as your certificate, but now I will give a name of the certificate as root. But in this public certificate data, I need to provide the root certificate. But that two certificates we need to create on our on-premise VM. And to create it, we have these two commands that we need to run in our on-premise setup. So I will go to my virtual machine here, and let me open the PowerShell, and then I will run this command to create the root certificate, and it is created. Then I have to create another certificate also, that would be a client certificate. And that client certificate is created. Now we will see where it is created. It is created in the certificate store of our laptop. Go to remove snap-in. We will add this certificate. Finish. Okay. And then in the personal certificates, we can see that two certificate has been created. One is root certificate, and now we need to export this root certificate. Click on next, next, and we will use this base64 encoded x.509.cer. Let me save this file with the name root.cer on my desktop. We will click on save, then next, and we will finish it. The root certificate that we just created now has been exported. Let's minimize this my MMC console, and here is the certificate. Now we will open this certificate with the notepad, and from here to here we will copy it, and then we will go to the our point to site configuration page, and we have to paste this certificate over here, and then we need to click on save. Once the configuration will be saved, then we will download the VPN client, and then we will install it on our on-premises VM, which is in my laptop. We can see the progress from this bell icon. Now the configuration is saved, and let's download the VPN client. Now let's go here. We will copy it and we will paste it into our VM here. Now this is a zip file. Let's extract it on the desktop only. Now from this one, we will double click on it and we will install the VPN client. Click yes, and we can see it that our VPN client has been installed. If we click on the VPN here, it is installed. We will click on it and we will click on connect. Yeah, and this laptop is connected, and now we can see that from on-premises VM in my laptop, we are able to connect to the virtual machine that we created in Azure. It has started pinging. Now from our on-prem network, we are able to connect to the virtual machine in Azure. We can reach to the Azure network. All right, now let's go back to our presentation. And now let me stop this virtual machine, and then we can first let me delete the VPN client here. Let me disconnect it and let me remove it. Let me shut down this VM. Now we will proceed further with the another authentication type, that is the radius authentication type, but I will come to this radius authentication point to site VPN connection later on, because for this I need a lab in which I have a site to site connection in between my on premises setup to the virtual network in the Azure. So let's see if we can, let's proceed further with the point to site VPN connection with the Azure Active Directory. So to achieve this, let me go to my virtual network point to site configuration once again, and let me delete this one. Then we will choose this radius authentication. Now let me delete this point to site configuration. We'll click on yes. Let's wait for its deletion, and then we will proceed with point to site VPN connection with Azure Active Directory. So here we already have this virtual machine in our Azure network, and we already have this virtual network gateway. So I will connect now my laptop to this Azure network with the help of Azure VPN client, and the tunneling type that we need to select would be OpenVPN SSL. So once I will connect, I will create one point to site connection. When I will again make a changes in the point to site configuration by taking Azure Active Directory as an authentication type, then I will select the tunnel type as OpenVPN SSL. And once we will download the VPN client, then with the help of Azure VPN client, I will import all the configuration in this VPN client, and then we will see whether from the on-premises or my laptop, whether I am able to connect with this virtual machine which is in Azure network. All right, so my point to site configuration regarding the Azure certificate is deleted. Now I will configure it once again. Let the address pool will be 192.168.0.0./24 series, and here I will select the tunnel type as OpenVPN SSL, and then I will, instead of Azure certificate, I will select Azure Active Directory as a authentication type. Now in the tenant, if we see this Microsoft document, then we need to provide Azure these three things. One is tenant, audience, and issuer. So the tenant, we need to copy it from here. Then we have to put it here like this, and then we need to search for our tenant ID. Let's see how we can see our tenant ID. Again, go to the portal.azure.com, and we will go for Microsoft Entra ID. So I have my default directory, and this is my tenant ID. So I need to click on copy, and I need to paste this information over here. And then in the audience, we need to select Azure Public. I will copy it and paste it here like this. And then in the issuer, we have to put this value, but here we need to provide our Here we need to replace it with our tenant ID. So this is my tenant ID. Let me replace it. And let me delete my old VPN client that I got through certificate authentication. Now we will click on save, and we can see the progress through this bell icon. Once this is saved, then we will download the VPN client and we will configure Microsoft Azure VPN client in our laptop. Now the configuration is saved. Now I will try to download it, but the download button is grayed out. Let me refresh it. Now let me click on download VPN client. And so VPN client has been downloaded. Now let me extract it. Yeah, it is extracted. Now we can download the Azure VPN client, but I already have downloaded it, install it. But if you have to download and install it, what you can do is you can go to google.com and you can write it like Azure VPN client download. So when you will click here, it will click on download. It will point to the Microsoft, open Microsoft Store. From Microsoft Store, we can download it. Since I have already downloaded, so it's not allowing me to download. Then in the next step, what we need to do is we need to click on plus sign, then click on import. Then we will click on this Azure VPN config.xml file, click on open, and then we will click on save, and then we will click on connect button. Now we can see it is connected. Now if I open the command prompt of my laptop and if I try to ping this 10.0.0.4, this VM, I am able to ping. So from my laptop, although I am connected with this Solo 3071, which this is a virtual machine in Azure network through the public IP, but now I can connect it through the its private IP address also. And how I can do it? I can click on MSTSC 10.0.0.4 and I click here, and then I need to provide the password PASSWRD@123P capital, and then I can connect it. So the disconnection happened between the same virtual machine, but it was through the public IP address. But now you can see from here, I am connected to the Azure virtual machine with its private IP address because I already have established a connection in between my laptop and the Azure network. Now let me disconnect it. All right, it is now disconnected, and we have started now getting RTOs. Now let me delete this configuration again. And now what we will do, we will proceed with the site-to-site VPN connection. And once this will be, we will complete this demo, then we will again come back with this point-to-site VPN connection radius authentication. So we can see that this point to site configuration has been deleted. Let me refresh it, and let's go back to our presentation. So in this demo, what we have done, we have created one on-site on-premises setup in which we have a one domain controller, one DHCP server, and one routing and remote access server. This server will behave like a VPN. It will provide the path for the internal network to the Azure network, and in Azure network, we will have to add one local network gateway that will point, and then that local network gateway will be attached to our virtual network gateway. But this local network gateway will provide the path to our on-prem in a way we can now we can then connect our we can then access the Azure network from our on-prem setup, and from the Azure network we can access our on-prem network. So let's create one local network gateway first. We will give it a name like this one. And to create a local network gateway, let's go to the Azure portal, go on home, and you will click on local network gateway. Click on create. Resource group will be this one. We will give it a name like this. And then in the IP address, so in the IP address, I would need to provide the IP address, the public IP address of my device. Let me log in into my RAS server, and let's see what is the public IP address of my laptop. Basically, what I have done here in the RS, let me show you the settings. I have created two network cards. One is for the internal network, and another one is bridged with the physical network of my laptop. So let me open google.com. I will write it what is my public IP address. So this is my public IP address. I have given it here, and here I need to provide the IP address range of my on-premises setup, which is 192.168.178.0/24. Now I will click on next, next, and create. Now I have already given the configuration of now I have to configure this local network gateway also. In this local network gateway, I have given it my public IP address and my IP address range of my on-site. of my on-premises network. We will click on go to resource, and then we have to, let's see, and let's click. Now we have to attach this local network gateway with my virtual network gateway. So to attach it, let's create a connection between both of them. Click on add. Then the connection type would be site to site, and the name I will have to give it, the name of the connection would be like this. Click on next. Now let me choose my network gateway, virtual network gateway here, and the local network gateway name is this one. Then I will give a shared key between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This shared key I will also provide when I will configure the routing and remote access service in my on-premises REST server. IKE protocol, let it be IKE v2. Then click on next, next, then click on create. So basically what is happening, we are telling our virtual machine in Azure that if we have to, ping some IP address or network of the on-premises, so what it will do, it will first go to the virtual network gateway, and through virtual network gateway, the request will go to local network gateway. In this local network gateway, we have provided the configuration of public IP address configuration of a RS virtual machine, so that the network traffic can come from here. Now the deployment is complete and the connection is established. Now let's go to my virtual machine in here. So now what we need to do is we need to create one routing and remote access service role. We have to add it. Click on add roles and features. Click on next, next, next. We will select route remote access. Click on next, next, next. You have to select direct access and VPN RAS, and we need to click on routing as well. Then we need to click on next, next, next. Click on install. Let's wait for this rule to be installed, and then we will configure it. Now the configuration is finished. Let's click on close. Now we will go here and we'll click on routing and remote access. Now we have to configure this routing and remote access service. To do that, right click on RS and click on configure and enable routing and remote access. Then click on next. Select this option, secure connection between two private networks. Click on next. Then again click on next. Let it be take the IP address to DHCP, that is fine. Click on next and click on finish. Now we have to configure the demand dial interface. To do that, click on next, and here we will give it a name like You can give it a name Azure underscore gateway like this. Then click on next. Yes, this is fine. Connect using virtual private network VPN. Click on next. Here we will select this IKEv2 tunneling protocol. Then click on next. Here we need to provide the IP address of the public IP address of the virtual network gateway. So how we can find the public IP address of our gateway? Let's click here. Go to virtual network gateways. Click here, and this is this public IP address of my gateway. Let me put it here. Then click on next. Next. Here I need to provide the IP address range of my virtual network in Azure. So to see what is that, we can go to virtual networks, click here in the, and this is our address space. So we have to, we can see it from here also. This is the one. So that is 10.0.0.0. Then the subnet is 255.255.0.0, and metric we can give a value of 10. Click on OK. Then click on next. Click on next. Click on finish. Now in the network interfaces, we can see that this demand dial interface has been created. Let's go to see the properties. This is fine. In the security, this is IKv2, but now we need to provide the shared key, which was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then click on OK. And then let's see its interfaces. In the static route, we haven't got this one, so we will add one static route. Ideally it should have come automatically. So that would be 10.0.0.0, then 255.255.0.0, and metric should be 10. Click on OK. And in this NAT, we will add two interfaces. One would be our internal interface. We will add, this should be private network, connected to a private network. This is fine. Now we will add another one that would be external. Click on, and that should be public. Enable NAT on this interface. Click on OK. And now what we will do, we will see that our tunnel is still showing as disconnected. So because no traffic is passing. So now we will ping our network of the Azure 10.0.0.4 minus T. Now we can see, and we can see that this tunnel is also connected. The moment the traffic started communicating from the on-premises to the Azure network, this interface is also showing now as connected. Now I will go back to my presentation, and now we will see how we can configure point to site VPN connection through radius authentication. So in the site, so now both the sites, Azure site from here, this site, and the on-premise site here, both are now connected. Now what we want to do is, if some user is having its laptop and he wants to connect to the Azure network, then he wants then he should be able to authenticate through our on-premises Active Directory. So basically, what will happen when we will configure the virtual network gateway, then with the radius authentication. So when the user will enter his credentials, those credentials will be authenticated by the radius server. And the moment it will be authenticated by the radius server, the on-premises user will be able to connect with the Azure network. So let's go to my lab once again. Here is my radius server. Let me log in. And here let me quickly create one of add the route radius role, that remote access dial-in user service. Click on add roles and features. Click on next, next, next. Here we need to click on network policy and access service. Click on next, 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 and then click on install. Let's wait for it. Let it finish. Click on close. This is installed. Now we'll open network policy server. What we can do is, before configuring the network policies for our radius server, let me quickly go to my domain controller and create one group. That will be any user that will be part of that group will be able to log in through the radius authentication. So here it is my Active Directory, and let me create one group here. We will create a group with the name Azure VPN. That would be the name of the group. Now let me quickly create one user as well. Let me assign some password to this user. Click on next, finish. Now let me add this user into this group. Alright, let's go to the radius one. Now let me configure one policy. I will give a name, and before that, what we need to do is we need to register our network policy server into the Azure directory. So let us first register it, and then we will create the network policy. Click OK. And now it has given the message also. Now it is authorized. Now we will create one policy. And we can give the name of the network policy is Azure VPN authentication policy. Type of network access should be VPN dial-up. Then click on next. Here we will add user group. Click here and we will give it let's add this user group. So user Himanshu is the member of this group. So only that user will be able to log in to that user will be able to connect to the Azure network with the VPN client that we will get with the point to site configuration with the radius authentication. So now click on OK. Click on next. Access granted because we want to grant the access. Click on next. Remove both. Add MS CHAP authentication protocol. Click on next, 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 and finish. Now we will configure the radius client. Click on new, and we can give a name of the radius client as Azure Request Authenticator. Now here we need to provide the IP address of the IP address range of the virtual network gateway's subnet. So we can see it from the subnets. This is the range for this one. We will add it and then we have to verify also. It's not copied. Now we have to verify also. Click on resolve, click on OK. And here we need to provide the shared key as 12345 12345. That is the same shared key that we provided at the time of the creation of the local network gateway. Click on OK. Yep. Now we will go to our Azure portal and we will go to virtual network gateways and again we will go to point to site configuration here and we will click on configure now. Now we will provide the IP address range of 172.20.0.0/24 and we will select the authentication type as this one and then the authentication type would be this time radius authentication. Now here we need to provide the on-premises IP address of my radius server, that is 192.168.178.13, and then the shared secret it was 12345 and we will click on now we will click on save. Meanwhile, let me do one thing. Let me quickly create one virtual machine in the Azure. From there, we will install this VPN client and then we will check. No infrastructure redundancy is required. This should be standard. That will be Azure Data Center virtual machine run with Azure spot discount. Now we will provide the user ID as GC admin, password @123, password @123. Now we will go to next to disk, select the standard disk, click on networking. That will be in the network A, management, and review plus create. Let the validation passed. Now we will click on create. Now the deployment is complete. Our virtual machine is created. Now let's click on connect. Download the RDP file. Let me log in quickly on this VM. Let me quickly disable the firewall. The firewalls are disabled now. And let me go to this. Yes, this configuration is also saved. Now I will download this VPN client. Click on download. Let's copy it and paste it into the new virtual machine that we have created. We will paste it here. Now let me extract all its content on the desktop only. And before I install it, let's see this VPN configuration. So as of now, there is no VPN client is installed, but we will now install it. So to install it, double click here, click here. Click yes. And we can see that this VPN client is installed. Let's click on it and go to its advanced option. If we edit it, okay. Now we will click on here and we will click on connect. Now when we will click on connect, it will prompt a window to provide the user ID and the password of the on-premises domain. For me, that is, let me add the ID and my password. Then let me click on connect. Click on continue. Only with this user, this VPN will be connected. And we can now see that this VM is now connected with the Azure network, but it has connected when I have given the credentials of the uh, user that is a part of my Active Directory in my on-premises setup. So let's disconnect it, remove it. So guys, now we will discuss a very interesting topic today in which we will connect Azure and AWS network with site-to-site VPN connection. So already we have created this virtual network, and in our virtual network in Azure we have this virtual machine with the name Solo 3071. Already our virtual network gateway is configured, is created and configured. We have our local network gateway also, but we will make some small changes in the local network gateways, and then we will create one virtual EC2 in AWS. Then we will create to achieve it. First, we will create one VPC in AWS. Then we will create one internet gateway. Then we will attach one route table with that internet gateway, and then we will create one subnet. And then in that subnet, we will create one EC2, and then we will run one script so that this EC2 can be configured as a router. And in that one, we will provide the IP address of the virtual network gateway, and then we will connect both the virtual machines. So let's start it. Let me log in into one of my AWS account, and then we will create one EC2 with VPC, Internet Gateway, Route Table, Subnet. So to start with, let me log into my AWS account. Let me sign in. Click on next. Click on sign in. All right, now let me click on VPC first. Let's create one VPC. VPC is nothing, it's a kind of a boundary or a data center. So click on VPC, we'll click on create VPC. VPC only. Let me give the name of my VPC as tc underscore aws underscore network underscore a, and the IP address range we can use this one here. Let me copy and paste it. Tenancy would be default. This is fine. And let's click on create VPC. Now after my VPC is created, now I will create an internet gateway with this name, and then I will attach it with the VPC that I have created just now. Internet gateway. Click internet, create internet gateway with this name. Click on create internet gateway. It is created, but it is detached. So what I need to do is I have to attach it to the with a VPC. So VPC that I have just now created, I will click on attach internet gateway. Now it is showing as attached. Now in the third step, we will create one subnet with this name. So to create a subnet, we will go here, subnets, create subnet, select a VPC. This is the VPC, and then this would be my name of the subnet. And availability zone, I don't have any preference, but here I will give it like the subnet range should be this one. Let me click on create subnet. Then in the next step, I will create one route table with this name, and I will associate this route table with this subnet. To create a route table, click on route tables, create route table. Let me give it a name like this. Let me select the VPC as this one and click on create route table. Now route table is created. Now let me associate it with this subnet that we created like this. Click on save association, and then I will create one route table, and then I will add this route here. So to add the route table, on add, we'll click on add route. We'll select this one, and we have to internet gateway, and we have to click on this internet gateway and click on save changes. Now this is also done. Now I will create one of my EC2 instance, that is will be my virtual machine in AWS. Click here, click on launch instance, and I will give the name of my VM as Solo 3072. I want it a Microsoft VM. Let me select 2022 base server, and then I will go with the higher configuration like T3 large, at least 2 vCPU and 8 GB of memory. I have selected it. Now to log in, we need to create a key pair, but I already have one key pair, so I will use this one. Then in the networking section, let me click on add it. I will attach this subnet, this network with my VM, and I need a public IP also. So let me click on this one. In the create security group, I will create one security group with the name this name, and this RDP type is and source type anywhere. This is fine. Oh, this hard disk is 30 GB is also fine. Now let me click on launch instance. My virtual machine is created in AWS. It is running now in the action. Now let me click on it, and I want to connect with this VM. I will connect through RDP client. Then it says download the RDP file. This RDP file has been downloaded. Let me click on this, click on connect. But now I would need the password. So to get the password, what I need to do, click on get password, click on decrypt. No, yeah, now I will click on upload private key file that I already have with me. And this was the key pair that now I will decrypt the password. Now this is the password I have got. I will put it here. Click on OK. Click on yes. Now this virtual machine has access to the internet. Yeah, it has the internet access to the internet. So what I need to do now is I have one script file. I will copy it and I will paste it in my AWS VM. Now let's open it with a notepad. I need to make few changes here. So in this script file, let me open it. Now we need to make some changes here. So here we need to provide the public IP address of the virtual network gateway, and then we need to provide the IP address range of the virtual network A that we have created in Azure. So let's go there and go to overview. So this is the public IP address over here. So let me copy this public IP address of the virtual network gateway, and we need to make the changes over here like this in this script file. And this IP subnet range is fine because if we see here in my virtual networks, this is exactly the same address range that is here. And the shared secret is 12345 that I did it earlier also. Now we have to make the changes like this here and here, here, and this last one here. Let us save it, and let me save it as a PowerShell file .ps1. Now we will go back to the Azure. Let's go to the local network gateway. Open it. Configuration. We will make the changes. Here we will provide the public IP address of the EC2 that we have created. So what is the public IP address? You can see it from here. This is the public IP address of this virtual machine that we have created. We will paste it here, and then we have to provide the VPC that we created, the subnet range that we have provided over there. This was the range that we created. Now we have to provide this one here. Let me delete this one and let us click on save. Let's open the Windows PowerShell in administrative mode. Let's browse for the file. Let's try to ping the Azure virtual machine with its private IP address. Yes, before I run this script, I need to perform one more step here in EC in this instance. Networking, change source slash destination check. Let me click on this save. Now I will execute this command, this PowerShell one, and let's see. Now let me start the routing and remote access service here. Let's see what is happening with it. This service is running. So let me go to this service. Let me run one command, the last command. And now we can see that I am from the AWS virtual machine. I am able to now connect to the or I am able to now reach to the virtual machine that is in my Azure network. So let me go to the virtual machine of my Azure one, and then we will see whether I am able to log into the whether I am able to access my AWS virtual machine with its private IP address. So the private IP address of my AWS virtual machine is this. Let me ping it. Let me disable the firewall. Let's go back to the Azure virtual machine, and we are now able to ping. So both the networks regarding the Azure and the AWS are accessible. Let me now disconnect both the virtual machines. So when we talk about vNet to vNet VPN connection, in this case, we have two virtual networks in different regions, and both the VNets can be connected through vNet to vNet VPN connection. So, but the condition is that both the VNets must be in one subscription. So when if we have two VNets in both in one subscription in a different region, we can connect them through global VNet peering also. But when we talk about global VNet peering, the data travels between the VNets through Microsoft backbone infrastructure. But when we connect two virtual networks in different regions through virtual network through VNet to VNet VPN, then the data travels across the network by using this tunneling protocol IKEv2. So I already have this virtual machine created in this network along with the virtual network gateway in East US region. Now I will create another network in West US region, and then we will create one virtual machine Solo 3072 and a virtual network gateway, and then we will connect both the virtual network gateways through VNet to VNet VPN connection. So to start with, let me create one resource group in West US region. So to create a resource group, I will click on resource group, click on create, and we will give the name of this resource group as EC underscore West underscore USA, and the region we will select would be West USA. Click on next, next. The validation is passed. Click on create. Now the resource group is created. Now we will create a virtual network in West US region. To create a virtual network, click on virtual networks, click on create. We will select the resource group as West US and we will give the name of the network as this. We will select the region as West US. Click on next, next. Now we will change the IP series of this sub network as 172.16.0.0 and let us give a name to this subnet which will be created in this subnet. We will give it a name as this PC underscore West underscore USA underscore network underscore A underscore subnet underscore A. So this subnet A is in network A for the West US region. Click on save, click on next, click on create. So our network is created. And now to create this virtual network gateway, we will create one gateway subnet first in this network. So we will go to subnets, click on add subnet. We will use virtual network gateway. So default gateway subnet name will come, and then we need to click on add. Now our virtual network gateway with the name gateway subnet is created. Now we will create one virtual machine here in the subnet, and then we will create virtual network gateway. Let me select West US. I will give the name of the virtual machine as Solo 3072. The region is West US. No redundancy is required. Standard security type. This virtual machine is your edition Windows Server 2022. Data center is fine. Let me give the name of the administrator. Password. Now go click on next. Go to disk. You will select the standard hard disk drive. Click on networking. Now this West US network and this subnet is fine. Click on next, management, next, review plus create. Click on create. The deployment is initializing and then it will be submitted. It has been submitted. Now we will create this virtual network gateway. Meanwhile, it will keep on deploying this virtual machine. Meanwhile, we will click on home, then we will click on virtual network gateways. Now I will click on create. Then let us give the name of this virtual network as this. You will select the SKU type as VPN Gateway 1, Generation 1. Virtual network, it has selected. Then the public IP address must be for this, like we will select this name as PIP, public IP. Then enable active mode. I don't need, I just need a single virtual network gateway. Then click on next, next, and click on create. So guys, this process will take approximately 24 minutes. The moment the virtual network gateway is created, then we will again resume the video. So now our virtual network gateway has been created. Now we will go to resources. Yeah. Now, now let me create one virtual machine in this network in West US region. Now let's click on this virtual machine and let me log in into this virtual machine. Now let me quickly disable the firewall. How we see the private IP address of this virtual machine is 172.16.0.4. Now I will go to solo 3071 and let me have a continuous ping for this IP address. So it's not pinging. Let me go to solo 3072 and let me create one continuous ping for solo 3071 VM from here. So what we see that from both the virtual machines, we are not able to ping to each other. Now what we will do, we will create a connection between both the virtual network gateways via vNet to vNet. So to do this, let's go to the virtual network gateway. Click on any of the virtual network gateway. Go to connections. Now click on add. Now we will give the name of the connection as TC East underscore USA to West TC underscore West underscore USA. And we will have a bidirectional connectivity. So click there. And then the second connection will be with the name TC West underscore USA to TC underscore West underscore USA. Sorry, TC East underscore USA. This resource group is in East US. We will make it East US. Now click on next. Now here we will choose post per gateway and now we will choose the another one, the west one. Shared key will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, both the cases, and the tunneling protocol is Internet Key Exchange version 2. Now we will click on next, next, and click on create. So once this connection will be established between both the virtual network gateways, we will see that this virtual machine in a different region, we will be able to ping it from here with its private IP address and vice versa. Then we can see that the connection has been established. This connection is created, and now both the virtual machines have started pinging to each other. So guys, thanks for watching my videos. If you are new to my channel, kindly subscribe my channel. If you like my videos, kindly press the like button. Thank you very much.